Hi there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I always appreciate it more than you know. I'm grateful to have you in this crazy real estate family. And I've got a great show for you today. I've got Jennifer Kjellgren here with Nest Realty out of Atlanta, Georgia. Jennifer has about 20 years in the industry, so she brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to us today, but she's also a bundle of energy. I met her at a recent conference and felt like I found my spirit animal. So I just had to have her on the show to share her energy and her enthusiasm and her expertise. So with no further ado, Jennifer, let's jump right in. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about your journey in the real estate business, and we'll kind of go from there.
Awesome. Hey, Erin. So I have been in the business. Next year will be my 20th year. I started in real estate. I had been in corporate America for almost 10 years in professional sales and started buying real estate in the late 90s and realized that I absolutely loved it and I had a talent for it. And I saw an opportunity to use the sales skills that I have and the passion for where I live, and I jumped right in. So in 2000, I started as an independent agent with Coldwell Banker. My first year, I did 18 transactions, so I really jumped right in, and then kind of rose the ranks, kind of went through the journey of building a team, going and moving to Remax to basically let me build that team. And then in 2015, I opened an independent brokerage. At that point, I thought I was going to still sell and run a team, and life had a different journey for me since I ended up having 3 back surgeries in a period of 4 years. And in 2018, we grew our brokerage and we joined a boutique franchise, Nest Realty, and now I'm the managing broker owner. And I use my talents and gifts to help grow agents and help them build the businesses that they love. So it's kind of it was a rocky, unexpected journey. I ended up where I was not necessarily anticipating, but I love what I do.
Well, that's awesome. And, you touched upon a lot of topics that we kind of need to dig our teeth into here. So let's just back up a little bit, because it's interesting to me that you came from 10 years in professional sales and then jumped into real estate. So in some ways, I feel like maybe you had a bit of a leg up in that way, because a lot of people they go 100% commission, they jump ship from their, comfortable salary, and they struggle with finding that connection between I have a passion to serve and people are going to find out about me, because there's this fear of sales. So I'm guessing that you brought in a level of confidence around getting your message out when you started.
I did. I'm the kind of person who jumps in 2 feet right away. So I started my professional career in 1991. And during that time, Atlanta got the Olympics in 1996. And so we were just going through this massive growth and excitement. I had lived, we call our neighborhoods that are in the middle of the city in town. And when I moved to Atlanta in 1991, these neighborhoods were they had been divested in. And I had lived there. I was working outside the city. I was selling something that I was not passionate about. It was computer related products. And I knew I kind of had a knack for it. And when I was in professional sales, I really learned to find my voice. I had sales managers just say, you have to knock on doors, you have to do this. And I finally learned that I could be authentic in what I believed in selling. And I was able to build relationships and kind of build that career on that. So it was a natural transition to jump into real estate, to work in neighborhoods that were really experiencing a lot of growth. And and so I knew I could leverage that. And I think the big thing that fueled me was passion. When I started, hyper-local wasn't even a word. I kind of took this idea of I don't want to be traveling around a city that has a lot of traffic, and I want to work in a 10-mile radius. And all of my other real estate friends thought I was insane. And, now niche is a thing. So I just went all in. And I guess because I had done deals as an investor, I understood the process. And so I guess I would have a leg up, but I look back at those days, I really didn't do anything special with marketing. I was boots on the ground, doing it in a way that felt authentic for me.
That's awesome. So I love that, the boots on the ground bit, because I feel like at some level, somehow, everybody just needs to kind of, like you said, with both feet and have the boots on the ground. One thing I do want to ask you, because we were talking before the recording about, being a little bit ADD, moving a little fast, things like that. So I'm curious about knowing what you know about yourself, knowing your strengths, and knowing, what might set you back or hold you back, how do you actively manage yourself in a way that results in, some kind of structure and disciplines? Because like we were talking about, we're probably really similar, where sometimes structure can feel like suffocating, but I imagine you have to manage yourself in some way to be able to have had the journey you've had.
Correct. I have learned that structure is my friend to a certain degree, but I have to have some flexibility and some controlled chaos in my life to keep it interesting. I've learned in time through life through the relationships I have. So my husband, who I married in 2004, it's kind of like yin yang. So I've learned that I need people around me, personally and in work, to kind of keep my feet on the ground and can, I don't want to say call me out. That's kind of intense, but really call me out in love and let me know when I am moving too fast. And I think in the past, I was attracted to people both in relationships and in business that were very similar to me. And I've learned that the yin needs the yang and yin need to work together well. So I've kind of put that in place. I use lists. People look at my calendar and they get cross-eyed, but everything that I have to do goes into my calendar and I make sure that it happens. So, you get your hacks along the way.
Oh, I'm laughing because my calendar is like color coded and jammed. Everything and everything. If it gets on my calendar, it gets done. But if it doesn't, then forget about it.
Well, and the people around me, when they look at it, they just get hives and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, hey, it's on there. It gets done.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and it's interesting that you talk about how, I feel very similar to you in the sense of being attracted to people. First of all, I generally want to like every person I meet. And so when it came to hiring people,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I love you and I want the best for you. And I really want to see you succeed. So therefore I'm going to hire you. And maybe they didn't have the gifts that I lack. And I wasn't really thinking about the yin and the yang. I just wanted to be surrounded by love. And that was going to be enough. Right.
I have a very similar journey. And I'd say what I really have learned in the last couple of years is the transition from an agent to a broker and I think it's like your greatest gift has an Achilles heel. And I have the gift of seeing potential in people. But I have learned that, the horse has to want to put their head in the water and drink it. And kind of that force feeding, it just doesn't work. So they've got to come willing to hustle. And I love to empower people. I think that's part of my why, but it's trying to use those powers and empower people who want to do it. Right.
Yeah. I didn't think we were going to go in this direction, but I think I want to dig my teeth into this a little bit because I think it's important to talk about this. If someone's listening and they're thinking that I'd love to hire somebody, but it's so hard to find good people. And we're talking about the fact that, we've made our mistakes. We've brought people on that didn't work out and some that did and whatever the case might be. So what advice do you have for folks that are either, thinking about building a team and have not yet done so and are fighting the need to build? And then number two, how have you improved upon that recruiting, attracting, whatever you want to call it, the right people that are going to be the yin to your yang?
Got it. Yeah, well, it's been a process and there's been a lot of trial and error. I remember I hired my first assistant in 2012 and this first time I had to fire somebody and it was just awful. Mm-hmm. They don't, unless you come from an HR background, nobody teaches you how to hire. And I think the majority of us in real estate tend to be extroverted and big personalities. And when you interview somebody, you have to be quiet and you have to let them talk and you're no longer selling something they're having to sell. So it's taken me, and I'm still by no means a pro at it, but it's putting together an interview process, going out and seeking, like there's a book called Who that's a great book that someone gave me back in 2013, truly identifying a process and going through that. And for those of us that like to fall in love with people, understanding that you can have some blind sides with that. So for us in our company now, I'm not allowed to make a whole decision without my team meeting with people as well and asking some questions because they know that, I'm going to love them and they may see some things that I don't see. So we bake that process in just based on how we are. I would say the other thing that is intimidating for an agent when you're super busy and know you need leverage and you know you need an assistant, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to stop and I have to figure out what I want them to do. So I think that there comes a point where when you feel like that need, start to document what you don't like to do in your job and put a list of that together. That's going to kind of lead me to the next piece of this. So I'm a front of the house person. I love people. I love dealing with people. I love solving problems. I may not like to finish, all of the administrative part of my job, and I put that off. And so it was kind of clear to me that's what I needed in the business. And really through trial and error, I learned, and now I have a system for it, which is strength finders that I'll tell you about, that there are people just like I love to be with the people, love to do the details. And so trying to understand what it is that you like to do, what you don't like to do, or maybe what you don't feel you're great at, and try to marry that. And that's, I think, where kind of the magic happens when you start to have leverage in your business. So we talked about this earlier, what we've instituted in our company, and I can't remember the first time I read this book. It was probably 2012, 13. It's a book called Strength Finders, and it's an assessment. And the premise of the book is there's 34 talents. And if you understand your top 5 talents, you're working in the zone, you're doing what you love. And within those grouping of talents, there's 4 buckets. There's a execution bucket, there's an influencing bucket, there's a relationship building bucket, and there's a strategic bucket. So when you kind of take your top 5 and see what's filled, you might have a bucket that's lacking. So my bucket, I have nothing in execution in my top 5. I like to start things and have ideas, but I'm not great at finishing them. So I know in my company and in my business, I need to surround myself with finishers. And then we also have to establish a communication that I move really fast for them, and like the calendar and all that we talked about, that they need to be able, we just need to have a language and communication that they can call me out and say, hey, Jennifer, slow down. You're kind of freaking me out by all these ideas. And then just having a framework of objective communication to grow, because as in any relationship, personal business, there's going to be conflict. There's going to be weird times, and working through those things and getting stronger is the goal.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely need to read that book and implement it, because I actually teach a workshop on team building. And one of the big parts of the workshop is the idea that I'm not allowed to even talk on the phone with the person until they've done certain steps and certain homework to show me that they are detail-oriented, conscientious, willing to go above and beyond and get outside their comfort zone. And so there's certain homework that they have to do before we have a phone call, because if we have a phone call, I know I'm just going to fall in love with you and want the best for you and want you to be part of my team. And it's going to be amazing and it's going to be awesome. So I actually, for the listeners, if you're interested in having access to that team building workshop, I would love for you to contact me through the pursuingfreedom.com website, because I'm thinking that I want to turn this into a webinar in 2020, because I feel like it's an important topic to talk about how to figure out what to delegate, when to delegate, who to delegate to, how to find the people, how to screen them, how to interview them, all that kind of stuff. So I might have to pull you into that, Jennifer.
Yeah. Well, I say this like in a real estate career, like it's you start off and you have no money and you have a lot of time, and then something just flips. And I don't know if it's like this in the mortgage business, and all of a sudden you're rolling and jazzing and you have no time. And then you have things like quality of life or health issues or relationship issues. And, that's the beauty of a well-run team is it's kind of firing on all cylinders, and then you get your time back.
It's not just that. It's also the fact that we were talking about this yesterday in a business planning workshop, is that none of us are good at everything. Right. And the more transactions we do, the more of every task associated with the sales cycle we have to do, right? So if you love certain aspects of your job, then the more transactions you do, the more of those activities you do. Well, if there are certain aspects of your job that you don't love and you're not good at, which we all have, then the more transactions you're closing, the more of that you're doing. And the next thing you know, your energy is getting depleted. You're emotionally feeling low. And so that's where it's like, if we can get together with people who have a myriad of strengths, and we bring all those strengths together, we've created one superhuman. So my superhuman team is better than me as a one-man band all day long, where I was dropping the ball and forgetting to cross the T's and
beating yourself up, right? And feeling like crap about it. Like that's the other thing, is all the negative, talk in your head about, I should be doing this better and all that stuff.
Yeah, because we were talking about energy management when we met at that conference, Genuine Hustle, which, by the way, if you're listening, you need to be keeping an eye out for Genuine Hustle in Atlanta in October 15th, 2020, because Jennifer is going to be hosting that conference, and it's an amazing conference that you don't want to miss. That's my little plug there for Genuine Hustle. But it's like this energy management thing is that, when you're doing that, when you realize that you're not excellent at a certain activity, and because of that, you feel like you're dropping the ball, and then you beat yourself up. It's creating a cycle of negative emotion. And what's happening is then the next time you pick up the phone to make a call or you go to a meeting, you're not bringing the best version of yourself forward. You're bringing this like beat down version of yourself, and you're kind of muscling through and you're doing just good enough. But that it's taking away from your gifts if you're beating yourself up about your challenge, the things that you're not great at, right? So it's like if we can get those things off your plate, put all your energy into what you're awesome at, then you bring the best version of yourself into every interaction. It's way more fun.
Yeah, I've never, what you said about energy management really resonated. And I know I have my times in the day. And you mentioned something like, if you're feeling like that and you've got to do this thing, go do a quick thing that's going to make your energy up. So you're back there. And like, we got on the call and I was not in a good way. And now I feel fabulous. So I can do a webinar with you.
You're welcome, Jennifer. No.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, I mean, stuff happens with our business day in, day out.
Yeah. Well, this is good. I mean, this is good stuff on team building and delegating and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad we touched upon that. I do want to kind of circle back a little bit to when you talked about how, pre hyperlocal and niching out and all that kind of stuff, which is now a really popular topic, that happened for you organically. But I want to make sure that we kind of cover that in a little more detail because our listeners may not even know what we're talking about. So can you give your perspective and your experience on what it means to be hyperlocal as an agent?
Yeah, so I think hyperlocal or niche can be geographic, it can be style. So I focused on a very small geographic area of a city. So the Atlanta metro area is about the size of the state of Massachusetts. It is massive, and people, we have a lot of traffic. And there's agents who do a great job of going all around the city. And I had, in my previous sales job, traveled a lot all throughout the city. And I made a decision that I didn't want to spend my time doing that. I didn't enjoy being in the car in traffic. So I decided that I was going to learn very deeply a group of neighborhoods where I happen to live and I happen to love and know it in the back of my hand. And so kind of putting that stake in the ground saying, I'm going to do this and I don't do that. And I built a business model upon that. I had referral partners outside of the niche area. And ultimately, people came to really find and like, well, I like that you specialize here. I like that you're saying that. I want to have that knowledge and expertise that you're offering because it is hyperlocal. And for me, and again, I think what's great about real estate is there's a lot of ways to do it. There's not just one right way. I felt more comfortable in saying, because I had this depth of knowledge in the neighborhoods and what was going on, I could better serve them. Like if I were going 20 miles away, I don't even know what's going on with, in the neighborhood meetings and things like that. I think, niching can also be a style of property. So I did a lot of condominiums, and over the years, that has really served me because they're very different to sell than homes. And so that kind of really deep knowledge is another way, I think, of maybe not going hyperlocal, but going vertical. It could be an architectural style like mid-century modern or historic. But I think for me, it was just natural. I'd say it kind of happened organically. Like I said, I don't want to be in traffic. I don't want to do these things. So I'm going to do that. It wasn't, I think it just kind of naturally happened. It was somewhat intentional. I think now, if I were starting out, I think going and choosing a niche would really be a way to go because you can go very, very deep with your knowledge and you're going to find your people, right? You're going to find your tribe that if you put out content, you're going to attract those people to like what you like.
Awesome. So that's kind of where I wanted to go from here is what, in terms of content, how did your marketing to your local geographic area back then, how did that look compared to how it looks today with the support of social media and video and all this other stuff? Like, how's your marketing strategy evolved over time? Because I know you're big into video and social media, which I love because you mentioned your career started in 91. So we know you're not a millennial if you're listening.
No. I am very Gen X.
But I love that. I love your fearlessness and I love the way that you've evolved with the changing demands of marketing as they are today. And I mean, it's a huge part of your business. So I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about that.
Sure. And, hindsight 2020, I don't know if I would have done that. Anyway, with knowledge, then I don't know if I would have done it. But so I created a brand, In Town Expert. And it was debatable whether or not that was a good brand, whether it came across too cocky. I think I executed it well because I'm not kind of a cocky ego type person. But at that point, it was like putting your post in the ground saying, this is what I do and this is what I do well. And I really didn't market for many years, beyond a few postcards. So I would say my first probably 10 years in real estate, I didn't market because I saw so much bad marketing. I was like, I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to let the service that I have with my clients, and I loved on my clients, I did a lot of special Christmas cards, little kind of like touches along the way. So I guess that would be marketing. It didn't feel as intentional, like they weren't campaigns, and my clients referred me. And so very quickly I built a referral business. And then when I started coaching and learning about really working with your raving fans, I was able to go a little bit deeper with that. And then came 2012, I went to my very first Inman, met a lot of my techie friends from around the country and started to mastermind. And that's when I really started to branch out and do more with video and do more with social media and put that message out there in an authentic way.
I love that. So just because you sort of glazed over something which is really, really powerful, and it's a strategy in and of itself, which is to simply love on your clients and friends and family in a really intentional and genuine and active way. But that also means it is executing. I mean, it does mean that you're being thoughtful and you're putting intention into your marketing. And it may not look like traditional marketing, but it was your marketing and it worked. And that's really important. We talk about it in, real estate terms of touches, if you will. Did you have any plan in place going into each year, or was it just really organic? Did you have any coaching platform that you were ascribing to or modeling after, or were you just kind of winging it?
I was winging it. And I think it came natural for me and my personality. And I'm a gift giver. I love to do those kinds of things. So it did come natural. I would say that when we opened our brokerage in 2015, recognizing that needed to be scalable, needed to be processed, having a plan was a big turning point. And I wish earlier in my career I would have taken, like, Ninja is a sales strategy that I very much subscribe to, which is very much working with your sphere of influence and people who know, like, and trust you, and loving on them in a systematic way. And that's the real estate that we teach our agents to practice at Nest. I mean, I say it's super, super simple. Like, you do your thing, you find your clients, you love on them, you treat them well, rinse, repeat, stay in touch with them. And it sounds easy, but once you grow a business, you do need to have a system in place to scale that.
Well, it's interesting that you say that about rinse, repeat, and stay in touch, because I shared this on a previous episode, maybe two, that we did this little experiment earlier this year where we started calling on all of our past clients, all the January closings in January for the last 5 years, all the February and March and March. And we were open to rejection at that point because we figured that we had lost touch and there were probably people that had moved on with another company and refinanced or moved or whatever. But the interesting thing is that in the process of re-engaging with the database, our referrals went from 22% repeat and referral from past client to 50% repeat and referral from past client as a lender. And so that meant only 50% coming from agents and 50% coming from our database, which was a cool thing. But the really scary aspect of that was that of all of our repeat clients, only about 50% were working with the same realtor again, because they had lost touch. And it's like, it really is simple, but for some reason, it seems really hard for people to be consistent with it. And it's more fun that way too. I mean, you were doing stuff that was fun, genuine, caring, and people feel that and they think of you as the human being that's Jennifer, the awesome human being who happens to sell real estate for a living.
Right. Yeah, it's a balance. And I think that, I am such a rebel, and I was like, I'm not going to subscribe to this canned program because it didn't feel like me. And I felt that it was inauthentic. So kind of I naturally found the way to ultimately to do that. But it is like, you have to figure out a way to stay in touch with your people that feels like you and not some canned, plugged in kind of set it and forget it marketing program. And sadly, I think there's so many people on stage saying you need this thing, and you can see through it, I think.
So you touched upon something there that is important. And I'm curious about this because, for all the things that we may have done right or the things that might have clicked for us, there's a million things we did wrong, right? A million things we would do differently if we could go back and do it again. So when you talk about being a rebel and saying like, that's not going to work for me, is there any part of you that feels like you were reinventing the wheel and maybe doing more work than needed because it wasn't somewhat plug and play in terms of like how you advise your agents today? Like, is there a way to take that organic approach and streamline it so that it does become systematized without feeling systematized? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, yes, absolutely. And I mean, that was a big move to the brokerage that we're with right now. I mean, I think there's a point, and my husband just says sometimes, like, you got to ship it. Like, you cannot perfect it to the point where you're going to be over analyzing. You know, I could have probably looked harder earlier on to see if there was something that would have helped me process staying in touch with people in a meaningful way. And maybe it was taking something here. I thought I had to build it. And yes, I was creating a wheel that really didn't need to be created. And at the end of the day, it has come full circle. I mean, it is the practice of real estate I believe in. I'm not inventing it. It has been out there. It's old fashioned real estate, and you plug technology and systems into it to make it work better. Kind of having some things run on their own, but still keeping your personality with it. So I wish I would have looked a little bit harder to see if maybe there was something that would have fit earlier on. Um, I've always believed in just doing beautiful marketing, and I've done that throughout my career, and sometimes to the point of maybe it took a little bit too long, or I didn't get something out because it wasn't quite perfect. So that's where that, just ship it. Sometimes it's the point you just gotta do it.
Well, the thing is, there's beauty in being a rebel and the authenticity that comes along with that. But there's the flip side to it, which you talked about being a starter and not a finisher. And one of the things that I know that I could do better even today is that there's some things that I intend to do my way, and it gets done 20% of the time.
Yeah.
Or I could hire someone who does it 80% as well as me, or as well as I think I do it, right? Which
Right.
is subjective. And
Well, that's that control enthusiast part that we all have, right?
yeah, exactly. But if I could hire somebody who does it like quote unquote 80% as good as me, but they do it 100% of the time, that consistency will have a greater impact than the 20% of the time totally freaking amazing, you know?
I so agree.
So I don't know. It's something that worth exploring, I think. One another thing you talked about briefly that I want to touch upon is you talked about going to Inman and then masterminding, and I really find that kind of collaboration is so important in keeping you fresh, engaged, excited, motivated. Like you should never go this alone. So talk to us a little bit about your experience with collaboration with other agents. I want you to dig in also a little bit about collaboration on the big scale, right? Like going to Inman, but then also what does it look like on the micro level when you were finding agents to refer outside of your niche? Because I think that's something that's worth for like learning. I think that's something that a lot of people are afraid of. Like, if how could I possibly refer a deal to somebody else? And
Yep.
instead of doing it myself, even if it's 20 miles away across rush hour.
Oh, it's that, do I want 25% of something to give me back my time, or I want to try to do it all myself and suffer some things? So Inman was really a game changer for me. So I literally made friendships with people that kind of pivoted my career. And I'd say that I have a group of rebels who are tech savvy, who believe in practicing real estate in a way that it's client first. It's a lot of care, a lot of information. And I don't want to say we're doing it for a charity, but we don't lead with the dollar. The dollar comes. And so kind of finding that tribe, and then being able to have conversations and rolling up your sleeves and really talking about secret sauce and competitive advantage of people who aren't practicing in your market. 2-3 heads are better than one sometimes. And I have been able to implement marketing plans that my friends are doing in other parts of the country. We're all sharing and helping each other, but yet we're not competing. You don't have the luxury of doing that with some people in your market. And so building those friendships, it really just changed my career path. I don't think I'd be a broker had I not done that. And having people like that, it really pushed me outside of my comfort zone and where I felt safe. And it's funny, all of us have kind of grown in a similar way because of the collaboration that we have done.
And then on a local level, how do you go about finding the folks that you're willing to trust with your referrals?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. I go through our MLS system. If I'm looking for a listing agent, I find out who is actually doing business in that area. I pick up the phone, I have a conversation with them. Maybe I have a coffee with them, and I see if they subscribe to client focused real estate the way that I do. And then we give it a shot. And it took a minute to kind of let go of some of the control of just because I treat my client this one way. Maybe they might work a little bit differently, but it was looking for the same kind of philosophy of taking care of the client and going above and beyond to doing the right thing by the client. And you can pretty much tell when you talk to real estate people if they operate in that camp or they're more of a transactional, get the deal done kind of thing versus about the relationship.
Well, I'm curious how your personality and attribute of loving pretty much everyone you meet plays into that vetting process. Because do you feel? I mean, I do feel like there you can get a sense pretty quickly and follow your gut if somebody's in your tribe or not. Um,
Yeah.
and how do you I guess amicably pass on somebody that your gut says no to?
At that, when it's looking that way, my love for the client will oversee the potential falling in love with an agent. And honestly, it's not that it's about the numbers, but in some cases, actions speak louder than words. And seeing somebody that has a track record and being able to see if they fit into that, like I didn't struggle with that. Hiring people sometimes that I might have fallen in love with is different, but like I knew I had built this client relationship. I knew what I had have done for the client, and I knew that they had to have a similar level of care. So it was pretty clear for me.
Awesome. So, one of my last questions, because I know we're running out of time here, is um, what advice do you have for folks that are listening that are thinking about or actively in transition from selling agent to managing ownership leadership? Because it's a journey in and of itself, right? Like you can be an amazing agent, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're amazing. It's just like everything else. We're not all amazing at everything. So, how's that journey looked for you from you physically became unable to sell with your back surgeries. So
Yeah.
how's
When I
that?
was pissed, man, the rebel in me was like, "Ah," but it took a minute. Um, do your due diligence. We have our clients do due diligence on deals, and I think sometimes in real estate we jump into things and we don't know. So if you're looking at going out of production and going down a leadership or broker role, talk to people, find people outside of your market, or I know 2-3 degrees of separation, and you throw Facebook in, you can find that. Have some hard conversations. I knew when I went into being a broker, I was an excellent salesperson. I can kind of sell real estate with my eyes closed, but I needed to also do some of the things we call it, like I call our business like a restaurant: front of the house, back of the house. I'm front of the house all day long. But if I don't have good back of the house support, which is personally things I do not like to do, I'm not going to run a successful business and take care of our consumer clients and our agents' clients. So I was kind of clear on that. I had some coaching, and we hired to do that. And so I'd say to kind of just go into what it is that your next step is with your eyes wide open. And I also want to say something, because I had a lot of conversations at Hustle with individual agents who came to me and said, "Oh, I'm just an individual agent, but I love what I do." I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. In real estate, like you can choose your path, and whether your path is I want to do this thing and this level of production and this quality of life is what I'm happy with, that's cool. Stay on course. Don't feel the pressure that you have to go down this career path just because other people before you have. And so I
That is
think,
so great, because that's one of the coolest byproducts of this podcast that I didn't anticipate when starting it is the diversity of individuals, the diversity of structure, style of business, target market, marketing styles, discipline versus no discipline, early risers versus night owls. Like
yeah,
you can be you and you can be successful and you can design this business to be a vehicle to support your dream life. And that looks different for everybody. So I love that you said that, because I don't want people to think that I'm just because I have a team or I'm digging into the fact that you've made that transition, that it's right for everybody. Because one of my best friends, two of my best friends that are probably listening, maybe three of my best friends that are listening, are solo agents and have no
yeah,
desire to build a team, and
yeah,
they are crushing it at life, and they're happy and they're having a blast and their business is amazing and it's awesome. So yeah, by no means is it like only
yeah.
one
But
way.
But there is a transition if you're a high producer that there is a point where you have to have leverage. And leverage could be people, it could be money. And I think that's when you really have to look at what is it that you want to leverage. And realize that you're not good at everything, like you said. And I think figuring that out and figuring out what the other side of that is, that might be how you grow.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm excited to follow your journey as you continue to move in the direction you're going. How can folks get a hold of you or follow you on social media to kind of absorb more of your wisdom? Because I know 30 minutes doesn't cut it for all you have to bring to the world.
Well, you can find me pretty easily because I'm probably the only Kjellgren in real estate, Kjellgren, but most of our social channels are Nest Realty ATL. And we're on everything: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We're there.
And are you creating that content yourself?
Yeah. Curious. Yep.
Cool. Awesome. So it's going to be authentically Jennifer when you find her on social media. And don't forget to keep an eye out for whenever the registration comes out for Genuine Hustle, right?
We'll be putting it out first part of the year.
Yeah, you guys, it was a life-changing conference. It's really about the heartstrings of this industry and meeting amazing people that are here to support you. And it really left me high for a while, and I'm already looking forward to next year. So I'm just excited that you're going to be hosting it.
Hey, yeah. Well, I'm excited that you're going to be a part of it, Erin.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today. As always, I would love it if you would go to the app, whatever you're consuming this content on, YouTube, iTunes, whatever, and scroll down and look for that review section. There's a little pencil and 5 stars, and leave us a review so we can keep attracting awesome guests like Jennifer and help this content get found to help you on your journey. I love and appreciate you. Have an awesome day.